All right, buddy. Hello.
Have a cat's bum. So, a while ago, we did a interview kind of thing with me because I'm new to all of this lovely industry. So today we thought we'd do it as a role reversal. Me and George.
The other end of the spectrum.
The other end of the complete other end of the spectrum.
An old man.
Now who's old as hell. So George, when did you first come into the hair industry?
Professionalism as always. So, I came into the industry in around 2002. I think that's about right. So, yeah, went into it as a hairdresser, which seems like a bit of an old school way now, but I did an actual apprenticeship, 100% for a company called Tony and Guy. Did 3 years as an apprentice, and then hit the ground running. So I do think I was quite lucky, one, to get in with a company like Tony and Guy in 2000, because they were kind of like just on the tail end of the peakness. So I was quite lucky to run that kind of rave. And also the fact that I had an old school teaching system of kind of like being in the salon. Took me 6 months before I even picked up a hairdryer. Did 2-3 months just purely blow drying hair, learning growth patterns and how hair falls and flows, and I think a lot of that's been lost these days. I think a lot of it is go and do it all quick. I think society's like that. Everybody wants something quick and cheap and cheerful. Yeah, I was going to go on a rant about education and people selling education, but I shan't.
So do you see a massive difference between the apprenticeship that I'm going through, even though it's different because it's hairdressing and barbering? Do you see much of a difference?
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's not just like, oh, it's better back in the day. There's stuff better now, like completely. Like, yeah, so I think back in the day, the negatives were the fact that a lot of it was toothbrush cleaning the corner of shops. I've still to this day got the saying, like, if you're not cleaning, you're watching. If you're not watching, you're useless. So get out. And like that's how I was an apprentice. It's like you've got to be kind of on it all the time. Whereas these days, I see a lot of people kind of just expecting to be given stuff. Yeah.
That's why my hands bleed.
Well, you're very lucky because you've actually got what I call a traditional apprenticeship. You're on the shop floor. We're not pushing you. Like, you're taking your time. You're going to be doing it for the 2 years.
Yeah.
And yeah, strong foundations.
Anyway, enough about me.
Sorry.
So, from your apprenticeship, where did you go from there?
From my apprenticeship, I had to work off my apprenticeship, so I stayed in the shop. However, I loved that shop on particular days. So I was there for 17 years. So I went from apprentice to style director, I think my title was towards the end. Yeah, just grafted away. I was lucky as well because I had opportunities like I did London Fashion Week, did the clothes show, I did a few kind of like local charity catwalks and stuff like that. I'll ask the question, how did you get into barbering? It's because, as people who know me know, I got a bad leg, so I smashed my leg up, and being... this is probably not PC, but being back in the day and being a straight male hairdresser in a salon, all the girls tend to like push the blokes on me. Like if a bloke walked in, they were like, George can do it. And that kind of built my male clientele up. And then I got really fascinated with traditional barbering. And I wanted to kind of bring that, and I had this great idea that I was going to be like, have a barber shop in the top corner. The blokes can come in with their wives, but kind of, we were lucky we had 2 floors, so I had like a barber shop bit. And then I just got a bit of like imposter syndrome because I was going to barber bashes and things like in a shirt and tie, blatantly looking like a hairdresser. And I was like, I want to be a barber. I want to make the jump. So that's what happened. Luckily, I bumped into a great chap called Brian in the pub. And yeah, he offered me a job in what I would call kind of like an old school barber shop. Walk in, it was $9.50, clipper cuts, dealing with the farmers, the kind of like the quick kind of in and out clientele. But it was definitely a learning experience, and I was also really lucky with that. The fact that I had the scissor background, but then I kind of stripped it all down because I knew I'd have to build up my clipper work. And yeah, and then I went from there. Was working in a little town called Oswestry, which was, I call it the town with the hangover. So I wanted to come to the metropolis of Shrewsbury. Yeah, and haven't looked back really. Absolutely love barbering.
So was it quite an easy jump to go from the hairdressing to the barbering?
Straight up, no. I came in a little bit delusional because back in the day I thought it was a bit like everybody's going to have two back and sides, everybody's going to just want a trim and get out. Whereas like, and more so every year it gets like more and more people are educated now. Just kids are educated. They're coming in being like, I want a burst fade, I want a southwest fade, I want like, they know what they want. They've seen it. They know how to cut it as well. There's so much like, oh, watch somebody do a fade here, and like, yeah, it's a lot more pedantic. It's a lot more stricter. There's less room for error. Good blow dry can hide a lot of sins.
Yeah.
Barbering, you can't really hide many sins. You can put on a little bit extra gel, but yeah, no. And I love that. I love the smallest details make such a change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So have you seen much difference between, or many different trends? How do you see the trends from back then to now with hair? I mean, I know there's been a lot, but...
Yeah. Well, I think blokes, let's stick with the barbering side of things. I think lads, one, technology's getting better in products. So like things like powder wax, the dehydrated waxes and stuff like that. We'd never had all that kind of stuff. So people are being able to do their hair at a higher standard at home. Therefore, one, the cuts have to be higher standard, but it also gives us more creativity knowing that we're putting it into safe hands. So lads with these big kind of messy fringes and stuff like that, I know that they can go home and reenact that. So that gives me the opportunity to use more texture work, use more scissor work, and kind of be more exploring, like kind of push haircuts a little bit further. So yeah.
Do you think the internet's got a lot to answer for with the way that, you know, you get your teenagers coming in asking for all these different fades that they've seen online, and they've watched people cut them on like YouTube or whatever, and expect you to do exactly the same step by step? Do you think that's had a big influence?
Yeah, absolutely. Social media, it's made barbering and it's broken barbering. I think we peaked about 5 years ago with some of the old school barbers, Luke Chitty and Frank and all these lot kind of being really kind of like inspiration, and then comes inspiration becomes copycats, and now it's kind of oversaturated with the same stuff. I think people are losing the fact that social media is inspiration, it's not competition. And that can affect mental health, it can affect everything in barbering. There's so much pressure in barbers to do kind of thing. And yeah, so kind of people are able to see everybody can see what's going on. English can see what Americans are doing, Americans can see what the English are doing. The Russians, the like kind of East Europeans, they're incredible what they're doing at the moment. So it all kind of swings around, but it could be such a joy and such an opportunity for us. But I think either our heads get in the way, or competition, ego is such a bad thing in barbering. And I think it's all got a bit lost. Like for me, coming here and last 6 months has been my biggest change in the industry, because in my head, one, I met Natalie, but two, just kind of learning that actually I don't need to throw the kitchen sink at it and kind of strip it all down. And also these days, a good haircut is a priority. Like, it's not a priority, it's an expectance. Like, everybody is doing. There's some incredible barbers in Shrewsbury, and I'm so like love the fact there's such incredible barbers, like kind of James at Unknown with Jake, Origin with them, Hinces. Like, there's some such strong teams out there, and it's great. I love it. I love the fact, because when you know the competition is so high and you've got a busy shop in that community, it's such a better feeling rather than having a busy shop somewhere else. I didn't want to sound bad myself, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. So, quick fire question, no thinking, straight off the bat.
That's what I do best.
Favourite haircut, go.
Favourite haircut, pomp.
Pomp, there we go.
I think, yeah, pomp, textured. Anything that I can kind of use clipper and scissor work with, I think that's the best. Something I can get into.
Do you prefer scissors or clippers?
Do you know what? I've always thought I'd prefer scissors, but actually, once again, now that I'm kind of stripping it down to the basics, I've kind of, two of my main kind of influences in the last 6 months I've really kind of followed is Josh LaMonica, Josh OP, and his academic stuff. That's game changer. DFS, the way I use that is changing everything. And hair in motion, and for the scissor work. So I've kind of combined those two and reinvented myself.
Because online education is definitely something that's changed. That's one good thing about the internet. So coming through the apprenticeship that I'm doing, I've used the OP Academy and hair in motion and stuff, as well as being on the shop floor. Is this something obviously that you wouldn't have had when you were doing yours many moons ago?
Yeah, the internet. I know it took
Before
too long
internet
to
was
dial
created.
up. Yeah, absolutely. Some people are saying how it's kind of saturating it and quality's going down in education, because the problem is you had the greats doing the education and they're teaching people, and then they're teaching people, so it's always diluting. But I'm a firm believer you can learn off everybody. You've taught me stuff like fresh new eyes. I love seeing you cut and kind of thinking, how is he cutting in such an awkward way? So everything inspires me. Walking down the street, looking at people, like sat in a pub thinking what shape has made that haircut, and there's just
cool.
Rambler.
And that's us.
Yeah,
we're done.
No more questions?
No.
All right then.
No further questions, Your Honour.
Let's get back to work.
Yeah. Open the doors.